The live webinar on the topic of neuro-agility, construct to future-proof your career by Dr. Andre Vermeulen, who's the founding member and CEO of Neurolink, a boutique consultancy specializing in the neuroscience of performance optimization. This webinar is arranged by GPMA, which is the Global Performance Management Academy, focusing primarily on strategic planning and performance management. Now, before I request Dr. Andre to proceed, let me give a quick, give a quick introduction about Dr. Andre's profile. Okay, here it is. So Dr. Andre Vermeulen is the founding member and CEO of Neurolink, a boutique consultancy specializing in neuroscience of performance optimization. He's also a part-time lecturer and member of the Neuroscience Research Group of the University of Pretoria, where his function is to translate neuroscience into tools that people, coaches, and business can use to drive results. Dr. Andre is a thought leader in the field of neuro-agility, the brain-based elements that impact the ease, speed, and flexibility with which people learn, think, and process information. As a business innovator, Dr. Andre has developed and patented various neuro-agility profile assessments and applied neuroscience learning solutions that are used by thousands of people in education, business, and sports across the globe. He has published more than 43 leading articles on the development applications of the brain and mental health. Indeed, quite an impressive profile. Now, this presentation by Dr. Andre will be for about 60 minutes or 45 to 50 minutes, but please feel free to insert your questions in the Q&A box, question and answer box. I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. Now, with that note, let me go and give rights to Dr. Andre. I need to stop my screen. And Dr. Andre, can you share your screen? You should have screen sharing options.
Yes, I have the screen sharing option, Dr. Jeffrey. I am just quickly going into it, and we'll be ready to start in a moment.
So, there you go, we are all set. So Doctor, I'll request you to just give a quick introduction to yourself and then turn off your webcam if you could, please, so we have a better bandwidth, and then we'll turn it on in the end during question and answers. Thank you very much. The floor is all yours. Please proceed.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share our work and our passion. And as I gather, this is for professionals in the world of performance optimization. Now, today I just want to, before we start, perhaps just look at some context with regards to the world in which we are living. And the bottom line is, everyone knows, and we refer to this world in which we live in as a VUCA world, and it stands for being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And it's important more than ever, although we've been talking about this for years, I think the COVID pandemic across the world has really challenged us to understand what VUCA is really all about, but also understand what is it going to take from people from today onwards also to not just survive in the VUCA world, but to also thrive. Now, the bottom line, when we have a look at the word change, that's the one thing in our world that we can always be guaranteed of, is that everything is going to change. And when we talk about change, it means things are going to be different. not just after the pandemic, but the fourth industrial revolution in which we are is going to bring immense volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in terms of how we are going to deal with technology and so forth. Now, we all know that during change, we need to really adapt. If we look at the definition for the word adapt, it says we are going to have to modify our behavior and how we choose to respond to the changes when things become different in order to make sure we are still relevant and suitable in how things have changed. Now, one of the requirements to really cope with change and to be able to adapt is to be agile. And I've had people ask me, when we adapt and being agile, is that not the same? It is very definitely two different things. Adaptation, as we said, means to modify, but agile is for us to be flexible. That's what is going to help us to adapt. And the analogy that I would like to use is simply that if we look at some place where there are palm trees and a storm is on its way, those palm trees have been standing there a long time, it grows upright. But when the storm comes, that palm tree needs the flexibility in order to bend and not to break if that palm tree wants to survive. And the analogy I want to make is that is going to be required of us as individuals. On our journey ahead in our world, there's going to be many storms, some bigger than others. But the vital prerequisite for us to stay relevant during all these different storms that we are going to encounter is to be agile. Now, I know for all our listeners today, this is not new, what I'm saying. This is just the context of the time that we are living in. Now, the word agile has three keywords, and it means fast, easy, and flexible. And that is important that we have to remember. If we say organizations need agile people, it means they need to be people who can, in the change, adapt very easy, very fast, and have the mental flexibility to access and utilize all the different commodities that empowers us to think, to learn, and to perform exceptionally well. And that is why if we look at the VUCA skills that's going to be required of us. Now here, I am not referring to your vocational skills, the skills that makes you an expert. Let's say, for instance, we just use an example that a person is an engineer. Of course, you need your qualifications. But what is important that we have to understand already how things are at the moment, that when people are onboarded into new companies or when they are selecting talent to be absorbed into new companies, people look at qualifications. That's your vocational skill, and that will open the door for you, but it does not mean that you will get the job. It just opens the gate for you. The next thing that is asked and required is your experience, and experience is very important because this is how we learn to apply our vocational skills. Yet, that is going to open the gate for you, but it is still not going to land you a job, because if 20 people apply for the job, 4 are chosen as possible candidates. So far, everyone has the same experience, the same vocational skill. The next question is often asked to provide evidence of your performance in your prior job, and that is also important. And again, that will open a gate for you. but it does not mean you have landed the job yet. The fifth question that is going to be asked of people now, if we look at progressive companies, let's say I have potentially 4 candidates for the job, the question is going to be, who of all these 4 candidates that I now can choose, which one of them is most agile, most learning agile? And why that is so important is companies change the whole time. They have to modify and adapt to all the changes in AI and virtual reality and neuroscience and everything else. And the people who's going to drive the company need to be people who have the agility to be able to very quickly adapt and adjust, learn, relearn, unlearn, and multi-skill very quickly in order to move into new changes where there's most probably no path yet, and to explore uncharted territory. And that is why mental agility is so important. So if you look at the skills necessary for this new world of work, you will see that the first 5 that you see on the screen are skills that are brain power skills. The number 1 skill needed, it has been for much more than a decade, and it still will be for a very long time, is your ability to solve complex problems. Your number 2 skill is going to be critical analytical thinking. Number 3, creativity. Number 4, cognitive flexibility. This is where your mental flexibility comes in, to be able to adapt and adjust quickly, easy, and to be able to apply your old experiences in new, first-time, changing, and sometimes even stressful situations. Accurate judgment and decision-making, that's another important brain power skill. Now, when you look at the skills from number 6 to 10, that all can fit into the framework of emotional intelligence skills. So the point that I want to just make here today for our attendees is there are 5 brain power skills and 5 emotional intelligence skills with your tech savviness and with your vocational skill that are going to be vital prerequisites for you and me to not just survive in today and tomorrow's world, but also to prosper and be very successful, employable, and very progressive. So if we talk about future-proofing your career, the point that I want to make is simply this, that an agile brain powered by the right skills to solve complex problems, to make accurate decisions fast, and your cognitive flexibility to access the full range of all the different types of thinking and learning modalities like logic and creativity, analytical thinking and conceptual thinking, and being able to do all of that simultaneously is in the future going to be your competitive advantage in a technologically advanced world. This is not my opinion. It is based on lots of neuroscience research. It is based on what the World Economic Forum has put forward to us as skills that's going to be essential for us to not lose our jobs in the future. Now, another analogy that I would like to make here is I'm talking here about having an agile brain that is powered by skills to solve complex problems. So it's very important that we should differentiate. It's one thing to learn creative skills, analytical skills, and all those types of things. But just like a ballet dancer does not only learn skills to execute the movements when doing ballet with beauty and precision, that ballet dancer also needs fitness and agility in order to execute those skills with beauty, accuracy, and precision. And the same analogy is applicable to all of us in the workplace of today and the future. We don't just need the VUCA skills that I just referred to, but we also have to make sure that we have the brain fitness and the mental agility, the cognitive flexibility to ensure that we really can be able to adapt and adjust, learn, unlearn, relearn, multi-skill, fast, easy, and be very flexible. Now, here's an important thing that we also have to remember. We should never confuse our mental potential with ability. They are different things. The brain has unlimited potential in terms of what we can learn, think, and create. But for us to become brain fit and to develop agility, we are not born fit and agile. It is a competence, a mental competence that you have to develop. So the VUCA skills that I'm putting forward to you, cognitive flexibility and brain fitness is going to be a prerequisite for any other skills that we are going to need in the future. And that is why we say that neuro-agility is going to be one of those very important competencies needed for a workforce to be progressive, to stay employable, to be effective, successful, and productive. Now, the word neuro-agility may sound like an ominous word. Some may have not heard the word, but it simply means neuro refers to your nerves, your brain, and your nervous system. Agility we've already discussed. It means to be fast, easy, and flexible. So neuro-agility literally is about optimizing all the brain-based elements that will influence the ease, the speed, and flexibility with which we learn, think, and process information. So now is the time when we have to make an effort and also make it a priority in our lives to make our own brain fitness and cognitive flexibility a priority in order to really be competitive and to keep ourselves in that position where we can think, learn, and outcreate our competition as such. So we've spoken about the word agility. What I'm asking all the participants is just to do the following with the person who is illustrating a simple hand movement. So as you are looking at the screen, try to do what this person does and ask yourself, how easy, how fast, how flexible am I? Okay, so just ask yourself, your left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, your right brain hemisphere controls the left side of the body. So to do this simple movement activity as was illustrated by my colleague, you have to use both brain hemispheres, fast, easy, and be flexible. So now you have an experience of what neuro-agility all feels like. And it's important that we have to ask ourselves, so how did we do in this situation? How flexible do we think we are? And again, remember, the good news, it is something that can be developed. The bad news is we are not going to just automatically be flexible. Now, the question is, so why does neuro-agility matter? And the thing is, in the first place, if you look at all constructs about agility, whether we talk about leadership agility or emotional agility, learning agility, and so forth, what is very important here to remember is agility starts with ease, speed, and flexibility, and most of these constructs has taken the mental or the psychological, the behavioral constructs into consideration. But the neurophysiological elements that influences the ease, speed, and flexibility that improves our agility, that has not been addressed. So it fills a gap that has previously not been filled. Also, the beauty of neuro-agility is it validates, complements, and also advances the relevance and the impact of all other agility constructs. And the beauty of it is it anchors those constructs into the hard sciences like genetics, chemistry, neurophysiology, and so forth. We also have to remember that regardless of everything that makes us different, in other words, our beliefs, our race, our culture, whatever else we want to put into the equation, if we look at companies now, organizations are global organisms where we have different cultures. Emirates Bank have 101 different cultures in the bank. So we cannot focus anymore if we want to develop all people on the things that makes us different. We need to be inclusive. And the one thing that does make everything inclusive is we all have a brain. Regardless of culture, race, beliefs, and so forth, when we go to hospital and we are ill, regardless of your culture, we all get the same medical treatment. That's the one thing that stays the same, that keeps on making us all human. So neuroscience and this approach makes it an inclusive approach to all global learning practices. Also, it offers, what I'm going to discuss with you today, it offers innovative solutions on developing people's ability to learn. And it also showcases a conceptual framework for talent development and performance improvement. It easily integrates with other sciences and scientific. It offers a great return on investment when the science you use is accurate. It helps us to separate fact from fiction, which means that companies get a better return for the investment in training and development. Also, important here that it provides new solutions to us to the individual risk for human error. So at the end of the day, it significantly contributes to our personal awareness, our growth, our learning, and our future development. Now, I just want to show you.
Dr. Andre, if I may interrupt you, sir. Sorry for the interruption, but again, there's a little echo in your voice. Would it be possible to keep the mic? I know you're using the headphone, but somehow there are complaints coming in from different attendees about the echo in your voice, which is not bit audible for them. If you...
Sorry, Mr. Ali, what did you say? What is it that you would like me to do?
Sir, would it be possible? I know, are you using the headphone, right? So if you can keep it on the distance then, maybe, I mean, maybe you're too near to the mic.
You want me to disconnect my earphones?
If you can try, and I know we tried earlier, but let's try again. If you use the speaker,
okay.
give us an audio.
I am disconnecting my earphones. Does it sound better now?
So could you give us audio once again?
I have disconnected my earphones. Does the sound is better now?
Audio is pretty much in the same tone. There is an echo, unfortunately. It's audible, and if I may request the attendees, if you know, it's a bit echo, but it's bearable and it's audible. I think unfortunately there is an echo in it, but if we may proceed. So doctor, I would suggest if you could continue with the headphone, that was better.
Okay, all good?
Yeah, little better. We'll manage it. So with apologies to all the attendees about the technical glitch of the audio, And I request if we can keep a distance from the speakers ourselves, so it might be a little more audible, as I'm hearing it from a little distance from the computer.
Yes, I think, and also what helps is if we, everyone just can keep their mics muted. That also normally helps a lot to get the audio going. Okay, can we continue?
Yes, sir, you may continue.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is the next the next video that I'm going to show you, there's no sound, and the point is I just want you to look at the video, and it just illustrates your brain and how it works and transmits electrochemical messages. If we want to understand what neuro-agility is all about, you can see on the screen that your brain transmits electrical messages from one brain cell to another. That's what you see here. And then at the connecting point of your brain cells, you will see that it produces certain chemicals that helps to transmit messages. So if we want this process, if we talk about being neuro-agile, you want this process to work very well. So to illustrate this on a different level, you are now looking at two brain cells, and the red arrows illustrate your electrical impulses, the messages being sent from one cell to another. Now, I'm not going to try and give you a neuroscience lesson. What I am going to illustrate is we have lots of chemicals that influence the brain's function and influences the ease and speed with which we learn, think, and process information. But there are two categories. The first category of chemicals are what we call inhibiting chemicals, and they look like this. As you can see on the screen, what was illustrated, there's a red stripe. We get chemicals that act as inhibiting chemicals. We call them inhibitors because they will either slow down or block the electrical impulses that are being sent from one cell to another. So if we talk about being agile, processing information with ease, speed, and flexibility, these chemicals actually slows it down, so it's not good fuel for the brain and for us functioning at optimum level. So we refer to them as inhibitors. But the things that inhibit the speed of electrical transmission between cells are things like negative emotions or a habitual negative mindset, which we refer to as pessimism, or things like stress. For instance, if people experience stress, the name of the stress hormone is called cortisol, and in the medium to long term, the cortisol slows down or even blocks electrical transmission depending on the volume of these chemicals that we produce in our system. When we sleep, and if we do not sleep well, we feel fatigued. And there's a lower level of mental alertness because we didn't produce sufficient chemicals to transmit messages. So simply the point that I want to make, on its most basic level, neuro-agility is about trying to minimize the impact of the chemicals that influences our brain, our immune system, and our energy systems. Now, the good news is when you look at the next slide, you will see that the blue arrows indicate electrical transmission from one brain cell to another one without being slowed down or hindered in any way. And these neurotransmitters are what I refer to as the good feel that complements thinking, learning, and processing of information. And that's why I refer to them as good feel chemicals. And when do we produce these good feel chemicals? When we experience positive emotions like friendliness, kindness, hope, happiness, and so forth. Also, when we're in a positive state of mind, so we have habitual positive thinkers, we have hope for the future, when we feel safe and relaxed, and then we also, when we have feelings of flourishing, it means that we are running on good fuel. So the point is, when we talk about neuro-agility, we talk about all the factors that can help you complement the producing of good fuel chemicals, the neurotransmitters that are needed for energy, to strengthen your immune system, for wellness, for happiness, but also for increased performance. So everything we do, and what I'm going to share with you about the Neuro-agility framework, takes into consideration the factors that impact this electrochemical functioning that you see here. But again, let's quickly we've been talking for a while, let's do another brain agility exercise. I want to invite our participants to again just follow the instructions that you see on the screen and see how it goes. Try to do this. Okay, so again, let's ask ourselves, how is the agility going? The good news, by doing these brain agility exercises, it complements the ease and speed with which we transmit messages. So there's a framework for developing neuro-agility, and it stands on two legs. The one leg are the drivers that will impact the ease and speed with which you learn, think, and process information. And the other leg are the 7 neurophysiological components that influences the flexibility with which you think, learn, and process information. So these 13 elements have to all be taken into consideration in order to help us function at optimum level, to get the most out of our brain. So the drivers that impact your design will impact ease and speed, and then the neuro-design flexibility components are those that will impact your mental flexibility. Now, when we look at your mental flexibility, that consists of being able to utilize the whole brain as one functional unit. Relative lateral dominance means that we have the ability to utilize both brain hemispheres simultaneously, and not the one or the other. In other words, if we talk about the VUCA world, we cannot afford to either be analytical or creative and to go into these different modes of thinking. We have to be analytical and creative at the same time. And that requires of us whole brainness, brain fitness, and also neuroflexibility. But when we look at the brain from the front to the back, it also means that my brain has its expressive centers in the front and the receptive centers through which we absorb information, through which we see and listen at the back. The implication of this is when we work with people, some appear to be more expressive, others appear to be more receptive. Or differently stated, we frequently observe people being introvert or extrovert. In the VUCA world, we need to be both, depending on what the situation requires of us in that moment. So it's not a question of this dualistic approach anymore, being the one or the other, but a holistic approach, being the one and the other, being able to do what is expected of me, and easily and with speed accessing all brain regions. And that requires agility and fitness. But when we look at the brain like this, but now you look at the brain from the top. So there's a line between the two hemispheres, but it's also figuratively drawing a line between the front and the back parts of the brain. It means that my brain has different thinking, learning, and communication preferences. And therefore, if we talk about really being agile people, it means we need to have the mental flexibility to speak an analytical, a strategic, a task, and a people-oriented language all at the same time. And even if we start somewhere, it means we still need to have the mental flexibility to go into a different figurative mode when we interact with other people, or to perceive our challenges from different perspectives. So very important that we need that flexibility. But when we look at the brain and we open the brain up, we see that there are deeper areas in the brain, which we refer to. These are your emotional processing centers. And then there are the higher order thinking parts of our brain that deals more with reasoning and also thinking about things. So in our world, the VUCA world is going to require of us to be rational and emotional, to be very thinking-oriented and emotions and experience-oriented all at the same time. Now, the thing is, just because we have a brain does not mean that we automatically just do these things, because our brain flexibility, these exercises that we've been doing with you, will impact the ease and speed. Yeah, you did those exercises and you realize how easy or how difficult it is to do these things. So obviously it will influence your thinking and your learning processes also in the same way. But then important to also remember that all of us will have a natural default mode. And a natural default mode suggests that although we are and supposed to be whole brain people, when we experience things like fatigue and stress, we then revert back to a natural default mode based on our neurological design. And that is why we then sometimes find that some brain regions then will lead where others then just follow. So the point that I want to make here is that there are 16 different ways of how people absorb information. Remember, your senses are the doors to your brain. So as you are sitting there listening to me today, what I'd like you to do is just extend your hands like this and make a hole with your hands, not bigger than a golf ball. So quickly do this with me, please. Now, as we are doing that, can you see my eye? Although I am looking at you with both eyes, you are just seeing one. And the one you see is the eye that actively leads. The other one follows in a more passive manner. So my senses are the doors to my brain. And therefore, it is important that there has to be sensory balance and integration for us in order to utilize the whole brain and all brain regions simultaneously. So we all therefore have a unique pattern of brain, eye, ear, and hand dominance, which means there are 16 different categories of how people absorb information based on the dominant brain hemisphere, eye, ear, and dominant hand. And that will influence how they process information, what type of information they will emphasize, and obviously not just the ease and speed with which they process it, but even their potential risk for error. So our dominance pattern, included with the impact of stress and fatigue, will definitely have an impact on our risk for human error. So we have to take that into consideration also. Now, the good news is the more brain balance we have, the more sensory balance we normally have. So the key is you never want to change your dominance patterns. You want to optimize your brain performance. But also important to remember, all people are smart. All people are talented. But we are talented differently. We are smart in different ways. And yes, some people may have more talents than others, but everyone has talent. That's the good thing. But it's important that we need to understand how are we talented. And it's important in the workplace that we align our unique talents and mental intelligence preferences with the job functions we have to execute if we really want those people to engage effectively, to be effective, to be productive, and to really just love what they do. Your brain's very powerful. It can learn anything, but not anything is going to make you passionate and most effective. Normally, your blueprint for your intelligence preferences and how you are talented should be the point of departure for improving talent. So potential plus nothing gives you nothing. But potential plus appropriate competence makes you a competent, plus appropriate skills makes you competent. So if a person is, for instance, linguistic intelligence, that means language intelligence smart, they still need to develop the skills to present, to communicate, to negotiate, and to practice that a lot before they really will be good. Potential plus nothing is nothing. So we have to have a blueprint of how are we talented, how are we smart. And that's why it's so important to take that into consideration also. How are we talented, our intelligence preferences. Also, we all learn, but in different ways. We all think, but in different ways. So our sensory preferences and our intelligence preferences will put a huge emphasis on how uniquely we are talented. And these 7 components that you see here makes up your unique neurological design. And also impact the flexibility with the ease and speed with which you learn, think, and process information. So you have to take this framework into consideration whenever you are selecting new talent, whenever you are developing new talent, whenever you want to improve their performance, because you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So you've got to be able to measure these components. So it gives you a baseline from which you can start developing and then reassess to determine, have you improved neuro-agility, and to correlate that neuro-agility with other performance initiatives like productivity, less human errors, and so forth. So that's the one framework. So it's nice talking about these things, but we have to ask ourselves, how cognitively flexible am I? You may be a genius, but if you are not going to be cognitively flexible, then being a genius is not really, you're not really going to come and function at the best of your ability. We've got to ask ourselves, if I work for an organization, how flexible is the workforce in my organization? Will my organization's people, the collective brain power of the people, be able to adapt fast and easy and have the mental flexibility when we experience disruptive changes to still steer forward and still be very competitive? Ask yourself, which elements of my neuro design can be improved to optimize my mental flexibility? So you cannot improve what you cannot measure. You need to have accurate understanding of the principle and how that is applicable to you. And then once we've asked ourselves these questions At the end of the day, the most important question is, so what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do to improve my cognitive flexibility in such a way that I'm employable, competitive, successful, engaged in the workplace, I am happy, I am an investment for my organization. The next leg that the neuro-agility stands on are the drivers that optimize your brain performance. If we address these drivers, they will help you to improve your brain fitness, if so to speak. And brain fitness is just optimizing all the drivers that increases the ease and speed with which you learn, think, and process information. You will recall we spoke about those chemicals that impacts the ease and speed with which we learn, think, and process information. So my brain agility will have an impact on the ease and speed with which I process information. But unfortunately, stress means to lose control, which means if we experience stress, we start losing control over certain brain regions. And when we lose control over certain brain regions, we can never be the best version of ourselves. So there's no such thing as saying I am functioning at my best when certain brain regions are inaccessible to you. So stress or stress coping skills is a vital optimizer for your brain's performance. It helps you to make sure you don't lose control, so then you can get the most out of your brain. A good quality sleep is when you produce those neurotransmitters that are so much needed to be the good fuel you need to provide you with energy, with health, and also the good fuel you need to transmit messages at optimum level. When you move and exercise, that movement and exercise also impact your brain's performance. That means that some movement from time to time has to switch people on, has to help us activate or reactivate certain brain regions. You get people who are kinesthetic learners, which kinesthetic means movement. Some of our participants are already sitting here and saying, but this is starting to get long. We may start losing some concentration. Why? Because we need to move or stretch, but that movement gets my brain activated as well. Your mindset, in other words, if we cut open the brain and we look at our brain cells, the pathways in here needs to be agile. You need to have a positive, agile mindset so that you can wire yourself for success, to have a growth mindset. It is a vital optimization. We can sleep well, we can be brain fit, but if our mindsets are very limited or very negative, we are not going to be happy. We will not function at optimum level. Biochemically, it is not possible. And then obviously, the food that we eat and the water that we drink are the raw materials from which we produce those neurotransmitters. So eating nature's produce and being healthy is a vital prerequisite. Remember, your brain produces 20 to 25 watts of electricity. But that energy, that electricity comes from a combination of the water we drink, the food that we eat, and the oxygen that we breathe. So when we talk about neuro-agility, it is a construct that takes into consideration many things. But when we use this construct to improve people's performance, that is a very powerful point of departure. So at the end of the day, we should look at all of these different things that influences the ease and speed with which we process information. We should look at these drivers and sort of see it as a dashboard. Where am I strong? And on which of these dashboards should I be stepping on if I want to improve my performance? So if you look at the slide that you are seeing now, this person's brain agility is okay, the mindset is very good, but this person's stress coping abilities, lack of proper sleep and lack of proper movement is going to very definitely negatively impact the ease and speed with which they learn, think, and process information. So again, it's nice talking about the drivers that influences the ease and speed with which we learn and think. But ask yourself always, so what does my brain fitness look like? And then also, what does the brain fitness of my organization look like? Which of these drivers do I actually need to improve? And then obviously, how am I going to do it? What's my plan of action? Do I need to adjust my sleeping patterns? Do I need to improve brain agility? Do I need to develop some positive thinking skills and maybe develop a growth mindset? You need to have an understanding of the commodities that influence your performance if you want to optimize it. So again, let's quickly just do an exercise for those kinesthetic participants who is starting to feel I'm losing control. Let's just quickly do the following exercise. Okay, so the idea was, again, remember, these exercises show us the ease and speed with which we use our brain. The good news, the more we do these types of activities, the more it starts improving our mental flexibility. So the question is, does neuro-agility work? Is it a construct necessary for businesses? There are many case studies that I can put forward. Here is one that we did on specifically looking at the effect of human error in a mine, where they had accidents and an increase on incidents. Absenteeism was on an all-time high and had lots of difficulties. After a neuro-agility development intervention, the organization did an objective assessment that they used. We did not assess this, called an organizational climate assessment. How the tool works, if you get a 3.1% result, it says the company is getting a proper return on their investment. We helped them to get an 8% result, which means it was almost 3 times the result they expected. But this is the type of thing that says to them the training intervention is impacting bottom line. We could show to them through our assessments that we could improve brain agility and brain performance with 22%. 100% of participants reported a decrease in fatigue and an increase in focus, 24% decrease in absenteeism. Here's the last but very important, well, hundreds of thousands of accident-free hours. If you measure that back into money and accidents and lawsuits and hospital bills, it has a massive impact. But important, this group of this department in which we work had a 4.5 times monthly 14th check of 4.5 times their monthly salary as a performance bonus for productivity that was up. So many different types of research studies and case studies that we have, but at the end of the day, in the world of business where it's about driving results, neuro-agility definitely is a construct that provides evidence that we save lives, we improve quality of work and performance, less absenteeism, more productivity. So Next steps, ladies and gents, is we need to really think about ourselves. You invested some valuable time today to listen to this construct of neuro-agility, but important is to say, so what is it that I've learned so far today that I think I'm going to have to start doing to improve my neuro-agility? Because remember, if we improve our neuro-agility, we improve our competitiveness, our effectiveness, we engage better in the workplace, we are more employable, we are more effective at what we do, which means we'll also be more successful. So we've got to ask ourselves, which of those VUCA skills do we need to develop? But remember, neuro-agility is the prerequisite for all those VUCA skills. So to conclude from my side, ladies and gentlemen, I simply just want to make this statement, that knowing your neurological design and understanding the drivers that impact your neurological design is the key to your competitiveness, your employability, prosperity, and success. So thank you very much for your time today. I value that. And even if I couldn't see you, it has indeed been a privilege sharing for me our passion. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Andre, for a very, very intriguing presentation. And folks, we are now open for question and answers. So if you want to insert your questions in the question box, Q&A box, which is available on your console, please do so. I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. Or you could equally raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on the console, so please click on it. So you'll be able to speak with Dr. Andre as well now. Let me go to the question box. There are a few short questions. Quick one from Brother Mohammed Azmi Taban. The question is short one. How do we measure our brain fitness? I know you've covered it, but short answer.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. Is on our website, neurolink.company, you can do a free brain fitness test there, but that is just a short overview and just a simple, quick test to do. If you really want to be effective, you really, as I said previously, you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So we have developed an assessment called the Neuro-agility Profile, which assesses the 6 drivers that impact your brain performance, and it also assesses the 7 neurophysiological components. And then we put this algorithm together to show you what your neuro-agility looks like. It will show you dashboards in how you can develop. So very, very definitely so that we have developed a very powerful tool. And on our website, you will also see more about what that tool entails.
Thank you very much for a very detailed answer. Let me go and move to another one from Rasha Abul Anain, and I'll combine it with Halima Ibrahim as well. Can you suggest some tools to improve our agility, and how can we frequently assess our neuro-agility?
Yes. Again, I think if you already just want to know more, look at our website. We have a business partner in the UAE that you can also contact should you think about wanting to do a neuro-agility assessment. And it's always good to do that. Then you understand how it is applicable to you, and then you can more accurately know what actions and activities it is that you have to improve. In general, if you've not done an assessment about yourself, optimize those 6 drivers. Trying to do activities that entail cross-lateral or the brain agility exercises. Have a good and a deep sleeping pattern. Eat nature's produce. Make sure you maintain positive mindsets. Practice mindful techniques. Learn stress coping skills. So this is just generally what I can suggest. I think the thing is, it's always just better if you understand how this is applicable to you. But then with regards to your neuro-flexibility, it's a bit more complex. There are no quick fixes to really determine these factors. So you're going to have to consider if you want to, especially if we look at the workforce, they use the NAP as a point of departure for performance improvement initiatives, talent development initiatives, reducing risk for human error, and so forth. But you are most welcome to look at our website. You can even contact me. You are most welcome if you want to send me an email. My email address is Andre@Neurolink, ANDRE, at Neurolink, neurolink.co.za. If you want to learn more about the principle, neurological design is, yes, someone who says neurological design is not very clear to me. Neurological design consists of your lateral preferences, your rational emotional preferences, your information processing style, your intelligence preferences, your sensory learning preferences. And you should look at all these things because all these different modalities influence the ease, speed with which you learn, think, and process information. So it's not just one or two things that influences your cognitive flexibility. In a nutshell, cognitive flexibility says you want to get the whole. You want to get the most out of the whole brain. Neuro-agility says regardless of our default modes, we need to be in that position where we utilize all areas of the brain simultaneously. But unfortunately, we don't just do that automatically. We have to optimize the drivers and improve the neuroflexibility. And the neuroflexibility consists of those 7 components that we just discussed. There's a question here I see that says, how do we know our neurodesign? You're going to have to do a more thorough assessment to be accurate in that. Yes, does reading, meditating improve my brain agility? Meditation is always a fantastic exercise. And the reason for that is when people would pray or meditate, it means that the brain feels positive, safe, and relaxed. And when your brain is positive, safe, and relaxed, that's when you function at optimum level. Reading is where we use both eyes to process. And the left eye is controlled by the right hemisphere, the right eye by the left hemisphere. So reading literally is one of the best mental workouts you can give yourself, and do this every single day. So thank you for asking that question. That's a very relevant one. And yes, whatever you do, your brain works like a muscle. The more I flex mental muscles, so the more I read, the more I think, the more I calculate, the more I concentrate, the more I use my memory, the better it gets. But even if you have great potential, but we become lazy to think, to learn, to memorize, to concentrate, to read, if I don't use it, I lose it. So the bottom line, then we become less effective than what we used to be. Your brain is a progressive organ. It gets either better or worse, but it never stays the same. That's why it's so important to constantly sharpen the saw by reading, developing yourself, do mindful exercises, meditation exercises, look at the sleeping patterns, look at your diet and everything else. Very relevant question, and thank you for asking that one. I see another question here is, are these theories are applicable for leaders as well as other employees or just employees? I like you, thank you for asking that question. I like you for asking that question. If we look at how the brain learns and functions, imitative learning is the most powerful form of learning, which means a boy will look at the example that his father sets, and that's how he learns what he thinks a man should look like and be. The same with a little girl. She looks at the example of a mother. So we learn in our world through the examples that we see. And in the workplace, we see the examples of those above us, those with influence, with power, with authority. We look at our leaders. That's why there's the saying that says leaders should be leading by example. So if we talk about an agile organization, leaders should show to their workforce what agile thinking, what cognitive flexibility looks like. Once people get an idea, they can say, oh, now I see. I also want to follow that example. But obviously, this is not just for leaders. They are just the big influencers in the organization. So normally what we would suggest is you need to develop your leaders and your employees. You start at both ends, developing the leaders, but from the bottom end, starting to create a neuro-agile workforce. So both are, developing both are equally important. So thank you, very relevant question. Are there any other questions?
Well, this seems to be the last one, and I appreciate that you were doing my job, Dr. Andre. I was quiet and listening because you were reading the questions yourself now.
Sorry, Ali, I couldn't hear you clearly.
No, I was just saying this is the last question that you read, and I appreciate that you have done my job of housekeeping by reading all the questions yourself. So thank you very much.
Okay, sorry for that, Ali. Sorry, I wasn't sure, but the sound is not that nice on my side, so that's why I thought let me have a look at the questions and so on. But thank you very much. I then guess our time is up. Ladies and gents, thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you for asking.
One person who has raised a hand, so if we just take this last question from Brother Mohammed Azmi Dhaban, who has shown keen interest, but unfortunately there were some audio glitches. Yes, Brother Mohammed Azmi, you can.
I will not complain about the sound anymore. Thank you very much for a great topic, a great presentation. I love the material. I need some more reference, if possible, to learn more about it.
Yes, thank you very much. I did hear that, and I will gladly, you are most welcome to contact me. Ali, if you want to distribute my email address or that of Adnan to the participants, you are most welcome. But if I can send them information via Adnan, I will gladly do so. I appreciate that positive feedback, and if people want to know more, that's what we do, is to help them, to provide them with relevant information. So I will gladly assist.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brother Mohammed Azmi, for your question. And folks, I apologize for a little technical glitch about the echo in the audio, but I'm sure since the topic was very intriguing and it kept us glued, and we were able to listen to all the presentation till the end. So with that note, I would like to end and conclude. But before we leave, any quick concluding remarks that you would like to give, Dr. Andre?
You know what, Ali, I think from my side, I think, you know, there's so much negativity in the world about the pandemic and everything. But I think the beautiful thing that we need to get from this is our brain has been designed to rewire itself. And you know what, when people go through a storm, we come out. If we are resilient and flexible, we come out stronger and better. And I think now more than ever, the awareness should just be there for us to make the neuroplastic ability of the brain applicable to our lives. Make yourself a priority, develop yourself, make sure you stay employable and competitive by also making sure, except for vocational skills and tech savviness, We have to make sure that we optimize our brain power skills. And I think neuro-agility is a great framework to do that. And the beautiful thing, like I saw some of the participants that said she reads and she does all sorts of things. That's it. If we use it, we will not lose it. But if we don't use it, it's when we start losing it. So let's use this pandemic as a challenge for ourselves to become better versions of ourselves.
Yes, indeed. And that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. So I really want to thank you on behalf of GPMA, Global Performance Management Academy, for sparing the time and delivering this live webinar. So thank you very much, Dr. Andre. I really appreciate it, and we hope that we'll remain engaged for more such of series, maybe perhaps in the future, because I can see from the audience comments that they all are quite interested. They have been asking about the recorded version. So folks, please be informed that we are in the process of launching the English version of the website, which will be ready very soon, and all the recorded webinars will be accessible through that portal for you guys. So please remain tuned, and for more announcements from GPMA, we have got your email addresses and you will receive all the links. So with that note, just a quick, again, introduction about GPMA, which is the Global Performance Management Academy. It is a hub of developing a complete knowledge repository for strategic planning and performance management. And we will be announcing the website very soon. So with that note, I would like to end and conclude. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. You all have a good day. I'm going to end this webinar, so you will be all automatically dismissed out. Thank you.